What's up, everyone? Photographer Ronix from Moon Photographer, and today we're going to be learning about skin retouching in Photoshop using frequency separation, and we're going to be learning about the mixer brush tool and how it works. And this is going to be like a detailed tutorial about frequency separation, skin retouching in Photoshop. And as you can see, a brief information about this image. I took this image a while back using a Canon 6D camera. It's a friend of mine, and I took it at f4 at 1 out of 250th of a second at ISO 100, and I shot it using an 85mm lens 1.8 for Canon. So as you can see, I already did the basic adjustments for this image, and in order to get back the colors, you know what I usually do. I usually come to the camera calibration right here, and I choose the picture style in which I shot the image. So for this case, I used landscape. So what I did for these basic adjustments, of course, I did not tamper with my temperature because I prefer a warm image. So since my photo had so much tint of some magenta or pink, I tried to move it towards the greens to -2, and I added contrast to around 18. Then I pushed my highlights all the way to -96 and my shadows to around 67 because I wanted the image to pop a little bit. Then my whites at -30, 32, and the blacks at -30, and I added a little bit of vibrance to my image. So we're going to be learning about skin retouching in Photoshop. So we're going to open this image into our Photoshop. So just come right here and click open image. And sorry if I at all I'm speaking really fast, but these are just basic adjustments. But for the real tutorial, we are going to do it step by step as usual, so that everyone can learn every single step I do follow while I'm doing my skin retouching in Photoshop. So we are going to open this image, and I'm using an older version of Camera Raw, as you can see. And if at all you don't have your camera calibration icon right here, for the newer versions it is under the basic panel around here. You find it around here. So let's open our image and we start learning about the amazing frequency separation technique of skin retouching in Photoshop. So this is the image right now. So first of all, I'm going to crop this image because I really want the emphasis to be on the model's face. So I'm going to crop it all the way in because I really want so much emphasis on the model's face. So let me crop it a little bit more because I want to get rid of this arm. There's some in the background, so I think this is fine. So I'm just going to click enter, and the ratio in which I've cropped this image is 4:5 because when you're posting on Instagram, you want the image to fit in the entire Instagram screen. That's why I've cropped it in this ratio. So it is like the default ratio for Instagram. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I want to get rid of these pins in the head wrap. You can see those tiny pins. So I'm going to be using my spot healing brush tool and just click over those pins in the head wrap. So make sure you remove this because makeup artists and designers tend not to like when these pins show in most of their work. So that's why I had to remove them. So this is the image. So what you're going to do, you're going to be retouching this image, and you're going to use the liquify to kind of fix this lower lip because it doesn't look regular enough. So we're going to be using liquify to fix that too. So as usual, frequency separation divides the image into two layers, that is the high frequency and the low frequency. So basically the high frequencies contains the skin pores or the skin textures, and the low frequency contains the skin tones and the colors of the skin. So we are going to start by creating those two layers by clicking Ctrl or Command J twice, or you can just drag the background layer and drop it right here to create a new layer. So basically that is it. So like we said, frequency separation divides the the image into two. So our middle layer is going to be, this is like our lower layer. It's going to be our color, or you can name it low frequency. Then the upper layer, remember it contains the textures, since textures are usually on top of the skin. So I'm going to name it textures or high frequency. So basically these are the two layers that are contained in the frequency separation group. So right now we're going to be creating the frequency separation group for this very image. So first of all, start by deactivating this texture layer and selecting the color or low frequency layer. So for this very layer, we only want to remain or retain with a, we only want to retain the skin tones or the colors of the skin. So what we're going to do, we're going to blur out the textures or remove the textures from this very layer so that we can remain with the skin tones and the colors in this very image. So just come right here to filter, then come to blur and come to Gaussian blur. So make sure you zoom into the area that seems to have more skin textures than the rest of the skin, and for this case we're going to be using, I think, the model's nose. So make sure you slide until you're seeing these textures get lost from the model's face or the model's skin. So let's move this until we find the base spot, and as we're moving this, make sure you're looking at your image so that you don't lose out or you can't notice the facial structures. So I think at 6 we have removed the textures, but you can only see the colors and the skin tones for the model's face. So just click OK, and now come to the texture layer, select it and now activate it. Then come to image, then come right here to apply image. So when you come to apply image, remember now for this case we want to subtract our textures from the color layer. So come to the blending mode and come to subtract. So when you click on subtract, make sure we are subtracting from the color or low frequency layer. Then come right here under layer and click on it and select the color all of the low frequency layer. Make sure the opacity is 100, the scale is 2, and the offset 128. I wouldn't want to go into the details for these two because it is basically dividing 256 by 2, and that's why we have put this to get a gray kind of layer for our textures. So basically that is how I can summarize that. So just click OK. So after doing that, come to the blending options and look for linear light. So when you click on linear light, you get back the image the way it was before. So we are going to put these two layers into a group. So just select the two layers, yeah, by clicking Ctrl or Command and clicking on the two layers, and now you can just drag them and put them in this group, yeah. And now we can name this frequency, you can just name it frequency separation. So I think that I'll just abbreviate that. So when you turn this on and off, you shouldn't see any difference between the initial image and our frequency separation group. So that means you have successfully divided the frequencies of this image. So open the frequency separation group right now, and what we are going to do, we are going to be using Mr. Brush tool first of all to blend or even out the skin tones of this model. So click on the textures layer and come to your adjustments and click on black and white. So when you click on black and white, make sure you darken the red channel because we want to see every area that has skin tones that are not blending evenly or perfectly well. So I think that is fine. So right now we can see those particular areas that don't have tones that are blending in well. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to be using a Mr. Brush tool to blend in or even out those skin tones So come and select your mixer brush tool. Mine is around out here, but it is usually under brushes. So just right click and you get your mixer brush tool under there. Then for settings of your mixer brush tool, make sure it is a clean brush like that. Sorry about this. So make sure it is a clean brush. Then make sure this right here is checked, and the reason for selecting this little box is because we want the brush to clean itself after each and every stroke we make while we are trying to blend the skin tones together. Then these are the settings. You really have to be careful with these settings. Make sure your wetness is at 9, because for a high wetness you are going to end up with a plastic image with no skin texture involved, so we wouldn't want that for our image. Make sure your load is 75, the mix is 90%, and the flow 100. Make sure sample all layers is not marked or checked, because we only want to work on one particular layer, that is our color layer. Just so come and select it, because the skin tones are under the color all of frequency layer. This is our mixer brush tool, so we're going to try to blend or even out the skin tones, because we want the transitions between skin tones to be really even enough. So just blend this unevenness in the skin tones. Just do that, and make sure you don't over mix a particular area for too long, because you're going to be doubling this wetness effect onto the model's skin. So make sure you don't do that for too long, because I'm going to be sharing with you guys the magical or something that is going to fine-tune the image even more after applying your mixer brush tool. So stay tuned as we do retouch this image. And yeah, I'm really appreciative for the birthday wishes you guys sent me. Yeah, I was really so humbled. So right now what we are doing, we are mixing the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone for this particular image. So as you're seeing, I'm not mixing a particular area for too long, because I don't want to make the image look plastic and remove the original skin textures from the image. So we have the shadows right here on the nose area. I've blended that. Then I'll come to this other side and I try to blend that too. You can see then we have some sort of highlight right here, and I'll just blend it alone. I think that is fine. So let's try to blend these tiny parts. You know, it is these tiny steps that really make a difference to your images or your portraits. So you shouldn't just overlook them or underlook them, whatever the case may be. So let's also blend these lower parts of the body, because I know most retouchers tend to leave out these particular areas after retouching the face, and the face will look like it was just photoshopped onto the model's body. So make sure you also blend or mix these particular areas and you don't ignore them. So I think we are done doing that. So let's say before and after for the mixer brush tool. So this is the before and this is the after. Before, after, you can see the difference it has just made within just a few minutes of using the mixer brush tool. So we're going to delete the black and white layer right there, then come to the lasso tool, and this is the step I was talking about. So make sure you're still on your color or low frequency layer, or some people prefer to call it the skin tones layer. So whatever you call it, as long as you know what layer you're dealing with. So get your lasso tool right here and make sure your feathering is 21 pixels, because you want a really fine selection for the area of the skin you're going to be selecting, like I'm going to show you guys. So make sure you make a selection on the skin area, a really good selection, and make sure you resist from selecting maybe the eyebrows and the eyes or parts of the clothing of the model. So I think that is a fine selection. Then come back to filter and come to blur and come to Gaussian blur. So remember, this is the radius we initially had, so we are going to slide this until we see a perfect skin texture for our image. So we are going to start moving while looking at the skin, of course. So let's move this until we find the sweetest spot for our skin for the model. I think at around 15, yeah, 15 pixels, because I couldn't get it right. At around 15 we have the best skin texture for our model. So we are going to be applying this effect on the rest of the image. So make sure you just make a selection according to the shape. Yeah, right click and click on Gaussian blur. So that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of the image. Right click and apply the Gaussian blur. So let's do this quick because I don't want this to be another long tutorial, but as long as you guys are understanding something from this tutorial, that is what really matters at the end of the day. So I think this is fine. So you guys can see my selections. I'm just trying to make the selections according to the shape of that particular area. You can see this nose area. I'm just selecting these shadows and applying the effect. So let me also apply it around here. So you can see right now we have fine-tuned the image, so you can as well come right here and apply the effect too. Then also come right here and just apply the effect. So you can see the before and after. It is really not too much and it is just subtle. So what we're going to do, we're going to be removing the blemishes, and as usual, blemishes are part of skin texture. So just click on your textures or high frequency layer and get whatever tool works best for you. But for this case, we are going to be using the clone stamp tool. Make sure it is the mode is normal, the opacity 100, the flow at 100, and make sure align is checked and you're sampling from the current layer, this very layer, the texture layer, because we don't want to sample from the color or low frequency layer. So we are going to zoom in the image because right now we are dealing with skin texture. So while using a clone stamp tool, make sure you just right click. No, sorry, you don't right click. Hold down or press the alternate button and sample from a clean area and paint over the blemish to remove it. So basically that is how we use the clone stamp tool. You click, yeah, look for a clean area, hold down the alternate button, click on it and paint over the blemish. So basically that is how we do use the clone stamp tool while removing pimples or skin imperfections on skins during skin retouching. So I hope you guys have understood that. So right now we are removing blemishes, and if you're watching and haven't subscribed this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button because you didn't want to miss out on these amazing retouching tips. And soon I'll be uploading behind the scenes for my headshots, because I've been getting so many questions about the camera settings I use and the kind of equipment I use for my headshots. So I think it would be better for you to subscribe to this channel because you didn't want to miss out on the learning process for taking nice and proper beauty shots or headshots for all your clients. So just make sure you hit that subscribe button. So enough of the talking. So right now we're using the clone stamp tool to remove the pimples or blemishes from the image. You can see the skin wasn't all that bad, but we're just cleaning up a little bit because you know, it is these tiny steps that you ignore that make you a really bad retoucher. And remember, every time you leave these blemishes in your images, people who look at your images may tend to look at you as maybe a careless retoucher. So make sure you're really careful while you are removing these pimples or blemishes from your images, and you do take your time. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I don't want to spend really a long time while removing blemishes. So let me just get done with the lower chin area, so that let me just clean up the lip. So I'm just clicking from a clean area and painting over that area I want to clean up. So and now remember, we also have to fix the lip, because we have to use the liquify tool. And yeah, stick around and you learn about how to use the amazing liquify tool for your images. So you can as well come and zoom in and clean up the hair if at all you have the time. So we are done retouching this image, so you can see the before and after, before after. So what you're going to be doing right now, you're going to create a stamp visible layer for all we have done, yeah, by clicking shift alternate control E on the keyboard, shift alternate control E on the keyboard. So we are going to duplicate that layer by clicking control J. So we are going to come right here to filter and come to liquify. So we want to fix this lower lip so that it is in line or looks like this other side of the lip of the model. So after doing that, we are going to be doing the eye whitening for this very model, and we could do a little bit of dodging and burning for this beautiful model. So make sure you get your forward wrap tool, and the settings, I'm going to be using the default settings. I won't tamper with any of this. So I'm going to zoom in until I get to the lip area of the model, because I really want to be perfect and really precise while doing this particular step. So to decrease your tool, you have to use the left and the right brackets on the keyboard. So just get a particular area and move it out with care, because you don't want to mess out the whole lip. If at all you feel it is not working nice for you, make sure you increase on the size like that. So basically we are just trying to fix the lip area, because we want it to kind of be in line or to match with the rest, this side of the other lip. And if at all you feel there are little or tiny bumps, make sure you decrease and get a smaller tool to fix a particular area. So let's zoom out and see our progress. So we could just do that. I think this looks fine for me. I don't know. So let's do a little bit of fixing, because I feel this particular part is not in line really well. So let's move it down a little bit, because I think this is fine. You can see what we have really done with this step. So just click OK. So I want to show you guys the before and after for our liquify. You can see this is the before and the after, before, after. So what we're going to be doing, let's do a little bit of global dodging and burning for the image. And for the global dodging and burning, remember what we do for global dodging and burning, we use the curves in Photoshop. So just come and select curves. Remember, dodging and burning is more of enhancing the highlights and the shadows of the image. So let's first of all darken make a midpoint and drag it down. So we have to hide this effect by clicking Ctrl I or Command I on the keyboard. So when you're darkening would be burning. So that is burn. So we are going to get a second curves, but this time make a midpoint and brighten. And remember, when you're brightening, we be dodging. So we dodge the highlights and we burn the shadows. So we are going to hide that effect. Make sure this mask is selected and hide it by clicking Ctrl or Command I on the keyboard. So we're going to name this dodge. So that is dodge and burn. So what you're going to be doing, let's put them in a group. Control and select these two. Control or Command G, put them in a group. So we can name this dodge and burn. I'll just abbreviate that. So we are going to create a black and white layer. Or if at all you don't want, you shouldn't create that. So make sure it's get your burn, get your brush, make sure white is on the foreground and the flow opacity is 9% and the flow 100. So you're going to be burning the shadows. So every area you feel had shadows in this image, make sure you brush it. Make sure white is on top, or you can just toggle by clicking on these arrows. So let's just enhance. You can see that. So we had some little bit of contouring right here, so let's contour there too. I think that is fine for our burning. So let's dodge. So we had a highlight right here, then we had a highlight right on the nose area, and we had a little bit of highlight right on the forehead of the model. I think that is fine. So let's see a before and after for the dodging and burning. So this is the before after. You can see the difference it has made. It has brought back the shape and the dimensions to the model's face. So we're going to create another stamp visible layer again, because we want to do the eye and teeth whitening for our model. So we're going to click Shift Ctrl Alt E on the keyboard and duplicate the layer by clicking Ctrl J. Come to filter and come back to camera raw filter, and this time around we are going to be using the adjustment brush. For the settings, we are going to be using a temperature of negative 29. The tint is at 71, the highlights at 5, and the whites at 4. Make sure saturation is at around we're going to be using negative 74. So get your zoom tool and zoom into the eyes, and get your adjustment brush once again and just paint over the white area of the eye. You can see that. So we are just whitening the eyes of the model because we are just desaturating or removing color. You can see how the eyes are now white and they are now popping. So let's zoom into the teeth, and we do a little bit of teeth whitening too. I think this is fine for this image. I think that is all. So click OK. And now we want to add a little bit of blacks to this image because we want the image to pop a little bit more. Come to your selective color and make sure you select blacks, and now we're going to just increase the blacks for this image. So you can see the before and after. You can see what it has added to this image. So this is how we do retouch an image using frequency separation, and this has been an in-depth tutorial of skin retouching, and I've been using the Mr. Brush tool and the Lasso Tool Gaussian blur method for skin retouching, and also did global dodging and burning and eye and teeth whitening. So let me show you guys the before and after for the image. So this was the image initially before, and this is the after. Before, after. And if at all you love this tutorial and you have learned something from this tutorial, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment in the comment section, and don't forget to like this video and keep on supporting this channel. I'm Ronix from Ronix Photography. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another retouching tutorial, and stay safe.